Okay, we're coming to the very end of the game mechanics, and that's going to be interesting because we have just a couple of pieces left to do. One of the pieces is we need to drop the individual tetromino until it gets to the bottom. And the other one is once it does get to the bottom, we've got to merge it in. And at the point that we merge it in, we'll be ready to let gravity and a timer loop take its course rather than our down button. So let's go ahead and do that now. So we're going to be living in this particular session. Let's get the editor up, and the editor is up, and we're going to be living in the model itself. So the model itself, let's go ahead and close all the tabs that we don't need. So I don't think that we're going to need the bottom test. We're going to need the Tetris. This is where we're going to live most of the time. And we may also need the brick, and we may write some tests for this if there's a little bit of time, or I might leave that as as something for the users because this series is getting already pretty long. You might have noticed. So let's call this drop, and let's think about what's happening as this is being called. So essentially, a timer has clicked, and we need to know we need a piece, and we also need to know if the piece is at the bottom, and for that we need the bottom. So one of the things that we're going to have to do is move and prepare this brick. So then we're going to have to check a collision. So I'm going to say drop, or dewdrop. The dewdrops on the leaves, right? So this drop is going to take a Boolean, whether it's collided or not. So let's say maybe. So basically, if I have received a collision, I'm going to want to manage. This is going to be a merge and new block. Right? So eventually this will do the game mechanic also of once we've merged everything in, we're also going to want to take that merged content and condense it and score it. So we're not going to do that with this particular session quite yet. And this is going to be a false. And all we're going to do here is return block. So let's do this now. So if we're going to do a merge, we need the bottom and the block. So I think that these are going to need a block like that. And so in this case, it's really easy. So we've already, actually we're going to need an old block. And we're also going to need a new block. Right? Because this one is going to ignore the old block and return the new block. No, this one is going to keep the old block. It has had a collision, so it's going to keep the old block. And then it's going to take the merged and a score. Let's call it 100 for now. So basically, if you hit the bottom, you're getting 100 in this game, and we'll just go from there. So this one, I'm going to ignore the old block. I don't care where it was. It's dropped successfully. I didn't have to do anything. So I'm going to return the new block, and I'm going to return the old bottom because I didn't merge anything in, and I'm going to return a score. Maybe you get a point for just dropping down a space. And I am kind of liking the API a little bit. I'm not liking that the concepts are not getting named. So I'm going to name the concepts. And the way that I'm going to do that is just by returning a simple map. And so this is a block, and this is a bottom, and this thing, this thing will eventually be that'll be a score. Okay, so that'll give me some interesting game mechanics, or not the game mechanics that we want. But eventually what we'll do here is when we merge the bottom, we'll do some more sophisticated work. And so rather than return the old block, this will return this is going to return a new random brick. And so after we merge this stuff in, we're going to have to do a show, but we can do that later. And so this one is just about done. I don't need to do anything else for that. But we're also going to have to do the merge. And so for that, let's look at the bottom API and look at how we do the merge. And so basically all we need is the bottom and the points related to the brick. And so we actually can get the points pretty easily. We have this prepare right here. We could pass those through. I'm not really concerned about calling this prepare twice. It's not that heavyweight. So we're going to prepare this one, aren't we? So this is a new block. We're going to prepare it. And you know what? We're also going to need a color. And these are also going to have to take a color that this one will actually need the color, and we'll do this. We'll prepare the new block and then call so now I have I've got the new block. So I'm gonna basically build a new bottom here. And so let's do this from the ground up. I think that's way better. And so I'm going to start with a new block. And then I'm going to prepare that, and then I'm going to get the points with color. And so let's see the way that we are building this. Oh, we're building this backwards. So we're building this from the bottom, and this is the points. So what we've actually gotten there, this is the points, right? And so now I can call for the new bottom. This is points or bottom dot merge, and our bottom needs to merge in. It needs to take the old bottom, and it needs to take the points. So the points might have color and they might not have color. In our case, we are going to have color. So let's go ahead and do that now. So this is going to take the old bottom, which is just bottom, and the points we just calculated. They're in the points just like that. Okay, so this should give us the this should give us a tuple. You know what? That's in the wrong place. Man, I'm struggling with this piece of code here. So I want to take that. I want to move that up to here. Okay, so this looks good. So now I have a new block. I've prepared it and I put the color in it. What we did here is turned our new block into here. And so or actually what I want is the old block, right? Yeah, okay, there we go. So the new block I'm going to ignore. And I'm going to take the old block and say, okay, let's rotate it the way it's supposed to be. Let's move it to the rotation it's supposed to be in. And then let's dump everything into the bottom. Yep, I like that pretty well. So that returns a tuple. Let's grab this tuple to return the happy version. Oh, we've already got that, don't we? So we return the new block, the bottom, and the 1. And so now all that remains is for us to take this brick. Okay, so the new brick is equal to the brick, and I'm going to pipe that to, or it's really just prepare brick, isn't it? No, it is, we're just going to move this down. So this is brick.down. So I've moved it down, and now I have to check the collision. So let's just look up a collision where we've done it before. So all we're doing is preparing the brick to see if it collides. And this is this is basically the code that we're looking for to pass into our dewdrop, or maybe dewdrop. Okay, so our prepare, this is the prepare. So let's say maybe dewdrop. And this is going to take the collision. Maybe we should label that concept. And the way to do that here is with an underscore. So if that has collided and it's a true, then we'll take this branch. If that's collided, then we do a false branch. This collided gets ignored because we've underscored it, but it labels the concept. It's really basically we're saying we're extracting, we're naming that thing, but we're not going to use it. It might seem trivial to you, but actually having that in works a lot better than a comment because it's code that actually gets compiled. So we're going to take that, and then we have the old block, and the old block is brick. Yeah, I kind of wish I hadn't called that old block, so let's change that. I kind of use block and brick interchangeably. And the last thing that I need is, also need the new brick, and then I need a color. So that's the color that I passed in. So that's basically the maybe dewdrop. And so I think that we can just check to see if this compiles. Okay, so the color is unused. So that means I need to underscore this one. That's easy to fix. This one is undefined maybe dewdrop 4. Okay, so that means that so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arguments. So I didn't pass the bottom, did I? So maybe dewdrop. I took the collides, yes, and then I need the bottom. And then, okay, and so the other thing was we didn't use the color with this version, so we can go ahead and safely ignore that. Okay, so that compiles. So one of the things that I like to do is when I'm building a complex API, rather than try it out in LiveView first, I think that I should write just a quick test for this. And so I don't need these two files anymore. Let's go ahead and bring up the Tetris test. And I'm going to say test drops without merging. So let's run a test. I'm ready to do the next test. So I'm ready to run the next test. This is drops without merging. And then we'll have an additional test for drops and merges. Okay, so the conditions that we need, so let's see what our API looks like. So what I'd like to do is take a brick that's already at the bottom. So we'll take a brick that has a location that's going to put all the points near or at the bottom, and then we'll go ahead and see. So one of the things that I need to know is exactly where my my bottom collides. So I think that it collides at 20, so we'll go with that number. And so this test, so the initial test, I basically need to create a new brick like this. And I can actually, yeah, so that number is fine. We'll start that in the middle somewhere. So I've got a brick that's at location 3,1, and that's a default brick. We could put an I in it if we want to. Actually, let's not put an I in it. Let's make this at like in the middle of the screen somewhere, just to make sure it doesn't collide with anything. And then let's call our Tetris drop and merge. And remember, we've imported this. So all we have to do is call the drop. So we're going to say the bottom. So that's this thing. And then the expected. And I'm just going to set this as an empty map just to see what we get back in our test and make sure that our test fails the first time. And so now all we need to do is say the actual, and we can call our API. So let's call the API that looks like this. So this is points. Or the Tetris, so we're going to call the drop, and it takes a brick, a bottom, and a color. So let's call that now. Drop, and then this is going to take a brick and a color. Let's just say that this is red. I'm not actually going to need that. And this is actually going to fail, but let's take a look at what we get back and see if we think that those results are plausible. So this did fail, and it looks like we're getting something with a so the left is shaped like this, with a score of 1 and a bottom that's empty. It looks like we're working though, so that's nice. So let's say expected is equal to, and let's drop this right in here. And so the block, so we can actually say that is the okay. So this is the inspect that goes on there, and then the false 0. Yeah, okay. So the block is just going to be the brick dot. This is actually going to be the move down brick, isn't it? So this is brick dot or down brick, right? And the bottom is empty, and the score is 1. Okay, so actually, I don't have to compare all of these. I can do a pattern matching instead, and I can look for. I think that this is actually fine. Let's go ahead and run this. Next test. Okay, so Tetris on 32. I'm getting a syntax error in there, and that one works fine. So the next test I'm going to do slightly differently. I'm going to move things to the bottom just to be good and sure that they collide. So in this case, the location. So let's look at our brick again and see what our default brick is. So we're going to open up the Tetris. In this case, it's the brick, and the default is an eye. And the shape of an eye, to refresh our memory, is we're going to have Y's of 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it's going to add 1 through 4. So if we started the location with 16, it should work well for us. So 5 and 16. And then if I try to move that down, this should trigger our merge, shouldn't it? So the actual is drop that, and the block is going to be actually, let's say the expected is a bottom with we're going to just try to do a pattern match this time, and we want our bottom to be merged in. And so this should have points of let's see, it is this file right here, isn't it? It's this one. And we can take these and we can basically join these together and tidy that up a little bit. We don't need to see the shape of that thing here. So the bottom is there. The bottom actually has a, so this is going to be complicated. So let's do something different with our expectations. So those are the points that we're going to be looking for. And so I'm going to assert that actual dot bottom. And remember, this is a map, and that so then I should have a key dot, I'm going to say map.get, the actual bottom, and if I get 2, 1, that should give me an entry of 2, 1 that's red. Like that. So let's run our test. Okay, so I'm 48, so it looks like I have an end that doesn't match up somewhere. I don't need this expected, so I'll bet it's in that tangled mess somewhere. So let's try this again. So so basically we cannot invoke def inside the macro. So we have a define somewhere. Oh yeah, so test and merges. So we don't need this. Beautiful. Now I can take that. Okay, wow, an impressive density of bugs here. So, so my actual is, my actual was Tetris.drop, and then that thing needs a brick, a bottom, and a color. So let's say the brick and red. Okay, so let's see if that works. Okay, so we got nil. So now we need to see what our actual is, and I bet that we're right on the edge of this. So we're going to pipe that to io.inspect. So let's see if that works. So okay, so we got 7s. Okay, yes, because we have moved these around a little bit, haven't we? So let's grab this one. Let's grab 720, right? Because if our brick started at 16s, they're going to be at 17, 18, 19, and 20. And they started at 5. All of these are going to be at 7 now. So this is the point that we need to look at, which is correct. So our code is working. Our test is broken. So we're going to look for this one, and then we hope to find that. And we do. So drop and merge. So that's pretty good. So what we're going to be able to do in the next unit is actually integrate this with our LiveView game. But I think that one of the things we'd like to do first is try to merge in the score and score out and see if we can't score out some a piece from the bottom. So we're going to let that happen next. So stay with us. We are almost done. Take care.